Tonight on the podcast, we swing into action as Lance fights off the symbiote that is known as his ball throw.
Welcome to my party. We're just getting started. A life is a dream.
Welcome back, and you're locked right into a brand new episode of the Absolute Geek Podcast. I'm Matt.
I am Lance.
And tonight we have a special episode of the podcast. If you're coming in to hear about the news, geek news, get out of here. If you're coming in to hear about the news, comic book news, get out of here. Tonight we're talking about video games. And we're talking about one video game in particular, and that is PlayStation 5's Marvel's Spider-Man 2. We're going to give our rundown of it, a synopsis of it. We're going to tell you our thoughts on it, where we think the game is going next.
What do you think? Game of the year candidate?
Hands down, game of the year candidate.
It's pretty fucking good, dude. Like, you know me, dude. I don't get too obsessed over video games. Is obsessed the right word? Like,
yeah.
Like Max plays everything.
He's
right?
obsessed. He's obsessive. Yes.
I
borderline
crazy person.
Yeah.
But he plays everything, and no offense to my buddy Max, but he thinks everything, for the most part, he thinks everything is good. He really doesn't have any sort of barometer. I mean, 90% of the things he plays, he thinks is the best thing he's ever played.
Yeah, I'll agree.
So with me, like, I buy games with the hope that I'll play them, and then I don't play them, and then they sit on a shelf collecting dust. So it's very rare that a game captures me so much that it's got my undivided attention, right? And Spider-Man 2 is another one of those games. I probably can count maybe on one hand how many franchises, I should say, because Last of Us 2, I count as like one thing, right? But I could probably count on one hand how many games I'm like, I have to fucking play this. I can't stop until I've beaten it. Are you the same way, or is there more that you like where you're like, oh, I have to? Like, what was the last game that you would say that you're like, I can't do anything else but play this game?
Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Okay,
it's a relatively new game.
Yours is more recent than mine. I think the last one that was like that for me was Guardians of the Galaxy.
It took me forever to beat that game. I started that game the week before Logan was born, and I finished it like earlier this year. So it took me
you were in
over
the
a
middle
year
of a baby.
Yeah, but I was also getting up in the middle of the night. I just lost interest in it. So I like put it down for a long time and then ended up finally coming back to it. So it took me like a year and a half to beat the game.
The last game
I kind of lost interest in it.
The last game I was truly excited for, besides Spider-Man 2, was the sequel to the Jedi game. Because the first one was so good. The Jedi Fallen Order, is that the name of it? And the new one's called Jedi Survivor, right?
Yeah.
I played 15 minutes of Jedi Survivor. I've not picked it back up. That's not because it's bad. It's just didn't do enough to capture my attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, this game, man, has some incredible storytelling in it. And I just want to preface, we're going to probably spoil it. So if you're in the middle of playing it and haven't beaten it yet, or you don't have a PS5 or whatever, and you don't want spoilers, I would tune off and come back after you play and beat the game. Is it
only PS5 or is it PS4 as well?
Only PS5.
Wow. So it's like a true.
I don't think, actually, that's a good question. I don't think it's on PS4. I've only seen it on PS5.
Sometimes, like with Hogwarts, for instance, they release the PS5 and then the PS4 version doesn't come out for a while. Have you noticed that? So I want to say Hogwarts came out, the PS5 version.
It's a PS5 exclusive. So there is no PS4 version of the game.
Interesting. They really want to push people into buying. I guess they can do that now because PS5s are they're available now. anybody can go get one, right?
Yeah, they're readily
no
available
shortage
compared to
of them.
like pre-pandemic.
Yeah, you
But
could not get one. But yeah, man, like they change a couple things with the Spider-Man lore, though. A few things. However, the way they treat Kraven, I think, was pretty true to what I know of the character Kraven.
well, before you start getting into a run, why don't you give us a synopsis of the game?
So, if you play,
On
so the
board.
first game is Spider-Man, just Spider-Man. Miles Morales is in it, but he's not yet Spider-Man, right?
Right.
Until close to the end. So you start to learn who Peter Parker is. You start to learn about his relationship with MJ. They're on the rocks a little bit. You start to see his financial situation, his relationship with Aunt May, and with the community, right? The second game, so at the end of that first game, you're introduced. Miles Morales has his powers. Peter is going to be his mentor, right? The next game, which it's not Spider-Man 2. It's kind of like Spider-Man 1.5, I guess, because it's only 10
Well,
hours
it's
of
Miles
gameplay, right?
Morales. Yeah, it's
It's his game, but
right.
it's very light as far as how much gameplay there is, right? Compared to these other two games. These other two games are full games. Miles Morales, I think, only has 10 hours of gameplay. I think this one's closer to 30, right?
Yeah, about 25 to 30, depending
It's
on
more
if
of a
you're
full game.
completion.
It's more of a full game. But the Miles Morales game, Peter goes to some other country. I forget where he goes. And the city of New York, it's kind of Miles Morales, trial by fire. He's got to protect the city. Stuff goes to hell. And he's got to protect the city while Peter is away. This next game is the first time you actually get a story with Peter and Miles both protecting the city. You're taking missions, you're switching back and forth between the two characters. Their stories converge. They do have their own things going, right? Miles has his story with the Prowler going. Peter has his whole story with Harry. I almost said Henry, with Harry going,
I
which
wouldn't say the
Miles
Prowler. It's Mr. Negative is Miles'
Mr.
story.
Negative is his story, but I forgot about, that's specific to, I mean, those
The
two
Prowler is
converge
pretty
at
much
the
a
end, though.
throwaway. It's just side missions to collect more gear.
But it's also cleaning up some of the storyline from the Miles Morales game
Yeah.
a little bit. You get to see where Aaron's at and Uncle Aaron. But the Mr. Negative thing converges at the end with Peter. That's kind of why I didn't reference that at first. But you're introduced to Henry. Now I'm saying Henry.
Harry.
You're introduced to Harry. He is seemingly overcame his illness. You never know what the illness is. I'm assuming it's some sort of cancer or blood disease or something like that. And he is reintroducing himself into Peter and MJ's life. The three of them were best friends. This one that's a little bit different than than the movie iterations that we've seen with Harry Osborn is he is a nerd just like Peter. And that's kind of what I remember him being in the comics. I feel like the movies changed him into kind of like, so the Tobey Maguire movies, Harry's not a cool kid, but he's not the smart kid, right? He's just the rich kid.
Harry's always kind of been like the rich, kind of cooler counterpart
Of Peter.
to Peter, yeah.
But in this game, they're very much equals. I mean, he has the money behind him, but they're both science dudes. Like, his smarts are up there with Peter. Would you say?
Yeah.
Which is different than what we've seen Harry previously. So you're like, oh, this is great, and then you come to find out that, oh, the reason Harry, and we're getting into spoiler mode, the reason Harry is healed is because Norman Osborn his father gave him the Venom symbiote, which we don't know. They never say venom, right? Or symbiote towards the end of the game, but it gives them some alien thing that you find out midway through is alien. We all know that because we're familiar with Venom, but Peter doesn't find that out until he has the suit. Correct, Matt?
Right.
So you find out that he has the Venom symbiote. Peter gets hurt by Kraven the Hunter, and the Venom symbiote then latches itself to Peter, thus leaving Harry open to getting sick again. Harry gets sick again. Peter doesn't want to give up the Venom symbiote. And then ultimately realize after a big epic fight with Miles, which is one of the cooler parts of the game, I think, the two of them fighting.
Heartbreaking.
Heart-wrenching. But it's a very awesome part of the story is when Miles helps Pete. Peter's been helping Miles ever since Miles got the spider powers, and now this is Miles' moment to help Peter. And there's a big fight that ensues. Peter finally rips the symbiote off of his body, gets it into a little vacuum sealed thing, and then is taking it back to Dr. Kirk Connors because they're going to destroy it. Well, on his way to see Dr. Kirk Connors in the lab, Harry stops him and says, "All right, thanks for getting that, man. I need it so I don't die." Peter's like, "Man, we got to find something else to help you because this ain't it." And then Harry makes Peter drop the canister, I think, if I remember correctly.
No, the Venom symbiote breaks out of the canister and reattaches itself to Harry. Yeah.
Reattaches itself to Harry.
You forgot all of Kraven's stuff.
Well, it's not. It's
the most important stuff of the game. So this game has elements of Kraven's Last Hunt storyline. If you're familiar with the Amazing Spider-Man comic books, to where Kraven is dying and he is looking for someone who is worthy of defeating him. So he starts going and hunting down all of Spider-Man's villains. He takes out Vulture. You see that off screen. He takes out Rhino. You kind of see that's done off screen. He takes out he basically kills Scorpion with his own stinger. He's going after Sandman. So he's trying to get Tombstone. He's trying to get Mr. Negative. And so you see him going after all these different villains. And ultimately, once so they're at Coney Island for like a bonding moment, and the hunters attack Coney Island and they're destroying everything, and Peter and Harry
trying to steal Tombstone, trying to
kidnap Tombstone, and Peter and Harry start fighting back, and Harry has the Venom symbiote, but it's not Venom yet, but his symbiote activates, and he and Peter are fighting alongside each other. Well, Harry ends up squaring off against Kraven and ends up beating him down. And as they're getting ready to leave, like the Venom symbiote like goes to touch Spider-Man and ends up taking up a form of his symbol, which very much looks like the Flash Thompson iteration of Venom, and Agent Venom. And so later on, the Peter gets stabbed by Kraven and the sword broken and the knife broken off inside of him, and he's about to die. And the Venom symbiote leaves Harry's body and attaches to Peter, and that's how Peter gets the black suit. So then we kind of get into like the black suit storyline that we know, where as Peter goes along, the symbiote starts to take over and try to basically complete homeostasis with them, become one, where they're on the same wavelength. And so Peter starts to get more and more paranoid and aggressive as the story goes along. And now we can go
which is done better than the Spider-Man 3 storyline, Spider-Man 3 movie, in my opinion. They make him in the Spider-Man 3 movie, they make him very emo. He's got the hair hanging over his eyes. He's doing the stupid dance in the middle of New York. This one, he's changing his clothes to all black, which I kind of rolled my eyes a little bit at. You know what I mean? He's wearing a black sweater.
Just the symbiote, like regressing,
that's right. It's making
and disguising himself. Yeah.
Right. But they get less of the emo thing and more of the aggressive thing. So I think they really did that correctly. So yeah, what'd you think of Harry's suit when he became like Agent Venom?
I mean, it was cool. You're pretty much, I mean, he looked like Night Monkey from Spider-Man
And
No
he
Way
had some of the
Home.
armor on him, like I
Yeah.
remember Agent
And
Venom
then
having.
he kind of gets when him and like Peter touch and he gets like the white, like almost looks like the Tom Holland Spider-Man symbol a little bit
Mhm.
on his chest, and it looks very much Agent Venom, like the Flash Thompson iteration of the character. But I thought it was cool. I want to see some more of that. Hopefully, we get more callback of that.
You weren't a
Um,
big fan of the way the symbiote looks, though.
I wasn't a big fan of the way Venom looks when he's not like his tongue isn't out. Like, there's just something like with the way it's programmed in his jaw that it like he looks like Ike from South Park to me.
I'll have to look at that again.
Where like
I
his
know he
head
does
is
have a
like
really wide
detached, like
mouth.
right here. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
like it doesn't line up. Um, but so moving on, Craven. So after Harry beats down Craven, Craven is now intrigued by the symbiote.
Symbiote.
And so he starts hunting Peter and he ends up capturing Miles and forcing Peter into a confrontation with himself. And in doing so, like he even tries to go after Kurt Connors and he makes Kurt Connors turn back into the lizard again. And you have to fight the lizard. And
Not
then,
just a lizard, but like King Lizard. Like he
yeah,
keeps like the serum that Craven injects Dr. Connors with is making him bigger than he ever was as the regular lizard, right? And more
yeah.
aggressive, and which I thought was cool, man. He looked like a mini Godzilla. It was fucking nuts.
But you have so you have to fight him, and then Peter and Craven face off, and at that point, Peter's kind of on the downturn to where he is very much being controlled. His aggression is being brought out by the symbiote, and the symbiote is coaxing him to kill Craven. So in the middle of their fight, Peter's about to kill Craven, and that's when Miles interrupts and he says, "This isn't you. This isn't what we do." And um Peter kind of breaks free of the symbiote. That's when he captures it again, and they're taking it back to the lab to Kurt Connors to basically work on to see about trying to find a cure for Harry.
Right.
And then that's when they get back to the lab, and Peter's met by Harry, and Harry and Peter are fighting about how Harry needs that, and as they are, the symbiote breaks out of the container that it's in, and it attaches itself back to Harry, which at that time he becomes Venom.
You forgot a big part though. When Miles is captured, they put him in kind of this gladiator kind of scenario where they're capturing these people and making them fight against each other. And you, as Miles, you actually fight against Mr. Negative again.
Yes.
And Mr. Negative, you're fighting. He pulls you into the, I don't know what that world is called. The
Just
negative
call it
world.
negative zone.
Negative zone. And Miles, realizing, hey, this may be my only way to get out of here, actually slings Mr. Negative out the thing. It saves him. As he had the opportunity to kill Mr. Negative, didn't do it, throws him out the window and says, "Go get Spider-Man." And then that's the catalyst that brings Spider-Man to, I think is it an abandoned zoo, or no, that's the other. What was this? An abandoned something.
It brings him to he's at the zoo, so it brings him to the abandoned mansion where Craven is.
Which is what sets off that whole series of events. The reason that's important is because Mr. Negative plays a role later in the game that's kind of the big crescendo to the Peter story.
So then Harry is now on the mission to get the meteorite that the Venom symbiote was in when Norman Osborn found it, and he's going to use that to heal the world, basically take the world over as
turn
symbiotes.
Everybody into a symbiote.
So the first place Harry goes is to see MJ, and he turns MJ into Scream. Then you have
Which
to fight with
MJ's not
MJ.
Scream in the comics, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Who is that normally?
I can't. Scream's a newer.
I have a Funko of Scream, and I know I've read stuff with Scream before, I'm pretty sure. Oh, is Scream in the Super Nintendo game, the
I think she's
Carnage
in the
game?
Maximum Carnage game. Yeah.
Maybe that was
Her
my
first
first.
appearance, I know, is Venom Lethal Protector 4, which came out in 93. Her name, I think it's Donna Diego is what I want to say it is.
So she's not a character that is
But
prevalent.
she did take over Mary Jane Watson at one point too. So I mean that does kind of line up. Now that I'm thinking about it.
So as Peter, you fight Scream, trying to save MJ. Newsflash, you win, right? You save MJ. And then MJ, Peter, and Miles say this shit's got to stop, and they both try to go infiltrate. Is that at that point?
So I'm
right,
sorry.
because Spider-Man does not have the symbiote at this moment, right?
Right.
No,
So
right.
you're going to fight Venom and you get ambushed by him, and Peter gets overtaken by the symbiote. And as you're fighting as Miles, Mr. Negative comes out of nowhere. Oh, well, actually, yeah, Mr. Negative comes out of nowhere, and then
Miles
he and
and
Miles
Mr.
are
Negative
fighting.
go
And
into
then, yeah,
Peter's
him and
brain.
Miles go inside Peter's brain and free him of the symbiote. But when they do that, he uses all his powers to get rid of the little trace of the symbiote that's left. And in doing so, he infuses his negative powers with the symbiote, and Peter dons the anti-venom suit, the suit that is originally obtained pretty similarly, but by Eddie Brock, as he's dying of cancer. And the Venom symbiote leaves him because he feels that he's weak. Now, this is in the comics. This does not take place in the games. But so in the comics, Eddie Brock finds out he has cancer. The Venom symbiote basically leaves him because he feels that he's weak. And he goes and takes over Scorpion, Matt Grogan, and becomes fused with the Scorpion. So basically, in a pretty similar way, Mr. Negative unlocks the same thing in Eddie Brock, where Eddie Brock becomes anti-venom and goes and fights the Venom symbiote, and the symbiote wants Brock back at that point. But so Spider-Man dons the anti-venom symbiote.
Which it's cool because you still get to use that Venom Rage, which is one of the coolest things of the game. When you go into Venom Rage and just killing everybody. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So he gets the anti-venom suit. They successfully hunt down Venom, or they go try to get the meteorite back because they think, oh, if we destroy the meteorite, then we're going to release all the citizens of this symbiote, of the symbiotes that have taken them over. And there's all these tendrils coming out of the ground, and everything's covered in, he's trying to turn the world into Venom, essentially. They go and get MJ, Miles, and Peter go and devise a plan to go steal the rock, the meteorite, and go explode it into the particle accelerator that they have at the Emily May Foundation, which we did not touch on. The Emily May Foundation is a foundation that Harry brings Peter into, and its namesake is Harry's mother and Aunt
Peter's
May.
aunt.
But there's a particle accelerator in there that they're going to use to destroy the meteor and free the world of this symbiote.
Heal the world
from the. They have a different idea of how to heal the world than Venom does.
Yes.
They both want to. They have the same. Venom and the three both have the mission of heal the world, but in very different ways. So MJ successfully steals the meteor. They take it back to the Emily May Foundation, put it in the particle accelerator. As it's in the particle accelerator, Venom tracks him down, I think, or he has Peter, right?
Yeah.
And goes there to get the thing back, and knocks Peter unconscious, and then Miles and Venom have a big fight, which that one was pissing me off because I've realized how to beat him in the beginning, but when he's flying in the air the whole time, I'm like, how the fuck am I supposed to beat this guy?
Those are the two hardest boss fights in the game. When Peter is facing off against Venom at their old school.
It's 3
Like,
different levels.
yeah, and you can't hit the symbiotes as they're attacking you, so you gotta like parry and dodge and like swing around and use
How quick did you
subsonic
figure out that the green ones you could just shoot them once with a web and they vanish?
Yeah, I mean, pretty quick, but like it seemed like in that fight, and I don't know if it's just this game, but it seemed like in that fight, like every time I would go to use one of my special abilities, Venom would attack me with his and it would cancel out mine.
Yeah.
And when he would try to do it to me and I would hit him with mine, it would still go through. And then I lost my ability. So I couldn't use it again.
Yeah.
So
it was a lot of parrying.
It was so annoying. Yeah. It was a lot of parrying. And then like, I would just heal. And then he just like hits me with that like super where he grabs you and then jumps and slams you down. And it's like, oh God, dude, like it probably took me like 10 tries to beat Venom in that. And like so many of the boss fights, my one complaint with this game, I think, is like there's so many boss fights where you fight the same boss multiple times in a session. Like it's not just like a one and done. Like Venom's like a 3-stage fight, I want to say.
Scream's the same way.
Scream is the same. Scream might even be a 4. She's a 3 or 4-stage fight.
So you're all excited because you're getting the health meter of the opponent down. You get it all the way down, and then there's like a little small cut scene where they suddenly revitalize themselves, and you got to fight them again and knock it all the way down. But they're doing something different, so you got to figure out like, oh my gosh, I was getting annoyed. I was like thinking I'm done.
Fight, I'm sitting there beating the shit out of him, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, he does this thing that knocks out my abilities, and then he's got a bar of protection on him again that you have to take down by destroying symbiotes before you can actually fight Venom.
Yeah.
Like, and it only took me probably 3 or 4 tries with the Miles versus Venom fight. I feel like Miles, like, I was laughing and thinking to myself, because like when you get the anti-Venom suit, like you're supposed to be like just walking through these other symbiotes, and I feel like Miles does more damage to the symbiotes than you do.
Because he has that, because Mr. Negative changes his power set a little bit.
Right.
Because that's a story thing. So basically his electric powers are somehow changed by Mr. Negative. And the way I understood it was the electric powers are supposed to be kind of anti-Venom in their own right? Kind of stabilizing of the symbiote.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of times when Miles is more powerful. I just don't like, I feel like when you're fighting as Peter, you're more, he's more flowy and stuff than Miles. Like I prefer fighting as Peter.
Oh, I don't think so. I think Miles is much more fluid when fighting.
I feel like that's how Miles is supposed to be, but I like fighting, and it might be because I like that symbiote suit so much that I feel like the specials are cooler and everything. I like fighting as Peter more.
Yeah, I loved fighting as the black suit Spider-Man and anti-Venom as Peter.
So, we didn't even talk about when Harry gets reintroduced with the Venom symbiote. He actually goes on a rampage and starts just mowing through people.
Yeah,
ends up in the middle of Times Square, and there's a big fight with Kraven, and
oh, that's right, I forgot about that. Yeah,
there's like
he bites Kraven's head off.
Yeah, that was awesome. It doesn't show it though, but it does show some blood dripping down and stuff. But you fight Kraven as Peter or Miles, and it's just like you're just getting rocked. You're there as Venom, and it was like nothing. Like Venom is just mowing through him. Finally throws him at the big Times Square sign, gets him up there, bites his head off. That's the end of Kraven. And that's kind of what spurs the whole Peter, we got to find Harry because he's this big killing machine essentially, and he's doing all these things. So then so he knocks Peter out. There's a big fight with Miles and Venom. And MJ is trying to get the particle accelerator working so they can destroy the meteorite through all this. Venom wants the meteorite. Finally, Peter snaps out of it, right? And that's where Peter and Miles are fighting Venom, right? It's mostly
Mhm.
cutscenes through that period, I think.
Yeah.
But the particle accelerator goes off, defeats, cures everybody of the Venom symbiote. And then the Venom fight really starts, and Peter uses his negative anti-Venom stuff to get the symbiote off of Harry, and Harry goes, seemingly he dies. And then Miles uses his electricity powers to shock Harry back alive, and he goes into a coma. Did you at this point think, oh, all Peter has to do is give him the anti-venom suit and then all this is solved?
I did. I expected him to give him the suit, but we don't know how much of it doesn't seem like the anti-venom suit is a symbiote in the same way as Venom. It acts like that, but it doesn't seem to be, I don't know. It doesn't seem to have the same properties, so I don't know necessarily. It doesn't seem to rely on its host, bonding with its host as much as the Venom
Maybe
symbiote
it
does.
couldn't heal him.
Yeah, so I don't know if it would have his same healing factors. But then in that instance, as Harry is laying there, you hear Norman Osborn make a call and tell someone to prepare serum G.
Which I think is the goblin serum.
It absolutely is. So
So
the cool thing to me about this game, I love this game. Listen, the gameplay is phenomenal. The storytelling, man, if only Sony, I think you said it to me, if only Sony could get these dudes that wrote this game to write their movies, because if Craven is going to be if they're gonna do a Craven movie like this, man, like
100% on board.
yeah, I have my doubts about the Craven movie that we're gonna get with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like, I'm
Oh,
waiting
I
to
think a
see.
lot of us do. Isn't he like an animal lover? Isn't his whole thing of
Yeah,
hunting people that hunt animals?
yeah, and then
I don't understand it.
yeah, and then this one, you get more of the comic book traditional Craven, but
It
the
was
story
awesome.
is just so good. The storytelling in this is just so good. The relationships are so good, like, I really felt like it was heartbreaking when you fight Peter as Miles, and Miles and Peter are fighting, and you feel for
So the
the
whole time
MJ
Miles is
stuff,
like
and
imploring with him, like, come on,
yeah,
Pete, like, don't do this, man. Like, I love you, essentially. He's imploring with Peter as he's kicking the shit out of him and making this bell go off. Um, yeah, it is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking anytime that Peter has to fight Venom, knowing that Harry's inside. Everybody's Connor, everybody's saying, "Hey, Peter, you're gonna have to kill Harry because they're too fused together." Norman says, "Hey, Spider-Man, don't kill save my boy." But Peter's like, "I don't have to kill him. Like, I can save him." Essentially, everybody's telling him, "Peter, it's a lost cause. Just kill him." So that's kind of heartbreaking too, right? Knowing that they have all this history between the two of them.
yeah,
But I agree with you. I thought the gameplay was fantastic. I thought the story was well written. It frustrates me that Sony can't get any of this right, and yet they have a video game studio here that's arguably telling a better Spider-Man story than the MCU.
mhm,
Um, and they change a lot of aspects in it. I mean, Harry, I don't remember Harry ever being the Venom as we know him, Todd McFarlane's Venom.
he's not.
In
He's
nothing, right?
Venom. No, he becomes Venom in, uh he's Venom in the Ultimate Universe.
Okay. So they take some liberty with the storytelling, and did it bother you? It didn't bother me.
No, it didn't bother me at all.
But yet when Sony takes liberty with them because they're doing it so egregiously, it bothers us, right?
Yeah.
So so obviously this proves the fact that you can change what we know in the comics, but do it in a smart way that makes sense and isn't going to piss off fans everywhere.
Right.
But yet now the Craven we're going to get in the movie is like part of PETA or something.
I don't know if he's necessarily part of PETA.
I did read an article where it said he is an animal advocate. You can't say PETA because that's trademarked, right? But he's an animal advocate, and it sounds like he's part of an organization that protects animals.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense.
And then he gets his powers from like a radioactive lion bite, but that's neither here nor there. But this game is so good, man. I love the combat. I love the I love the combat. I love the story. There's a couple of missions that I was like, all right, why do we need this? Like the Mary Jane, there's a couple of stealth missions with Mary Jane that aren't terrible, but they're kind of like derailing from the game itself.
They were frustrating to me because I'm like, I want to just go in there and just kick the shit out of people as Spider-Man, and now I got to be all quiet and like you get one hit and it like stabilizes you as Mary Jane. You're going through and killing people with this like sonar gun or something like that, or stunning people or whatever. That's how I felt with the first game, because in the first game there's a mission where you have to infiltrate an auction or a museum or something like that where Mr. Negative's at.
Yeah, that's the Miles game. Yeah, the Miles stuff.
No, that's the first game. You're MJ.
I don't, dude. I played the first.
You got to go to like.
Long ago.
She works for Mr. Negative,
right?
And she goes in there, and there's a statue where you have to like change the way the arms go and stuff to make the story.
I don't honestly remember that at all, dude. That, like I said, I played that game so long ago when it first came out.
I've played that game, I think, 3 times. That's the only game that I've like repeatedly played. I played it again in preparation for the Miles game coming out. But yeah, so in that game, there's a scene with MJ. She's crawling around. She's at, it's either an auction or a museum, but it's somewhere where Mr. Negative works. And there's a statue. You got to make the arms a certain way. A drawer pops out. They find out a bunch of shit. And then as soon as you get that letter and you're looking at it, all the guys swarm in, and then Peter comes in to save the day. But that whole scene, I'm like, dude, the scene where you're tracking down Peter when he's a symbiote and he's like sleeping and you're having to go through the neighborhood. Dude, I was so frustrated because I'm like, it's right there. And I could not figure out how to get around and like split people up so that I could like run to the other. I was getting frustrated with that. But in the first game too, there's scenes with Miles where you're crawling when Mr. Negative kills his dad, and you're crawling through the rubble before you're Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Those I understand why they put them there for story, but as far as gameplay is concerned, they're kind of boring a little bit. So you have like so much fast-paced action happening all the time, and then they put in this scene in there where you got to be quiet, and they take longer than they probably should. And like you're just ascending, and then that scene comes into your, and then you got to build back up again.
Yeah, I mean, all I could say about this game, man, is that it's fantastic. If you haven't played it yet and you own a PS5, definitely check it out if you're a Spider-Man fan. But you have to do the side missions, because almost all the side missions lead to notable Spider-Man cameos that could potentially set up future content. We might get
lots of Easter eggs in this game.
Lots. We have nodes to Chameleon, Craven's half brother. We have nodes to Carnage.
To oh, so you did see the Carnage one?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said you didn't do that one.
No, I did. I told you.
But you defused the bombs that were on the trucks, and you said no.
I don't remember defusing the bombs, but I know about Carnage.
Yeah, so um the Carnage thing I thought was fucking awesome.
Yeah, you get nodes to Silk. So there you could potentially be going into Spider-Verse territory. There's nodes to uh or nods to Spider-Gwen. Like you pick up one of the spider bots in the game that's in her color palette.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but
Um
I don't know if that's a beat for a future game. But if they do a multiverse thing, yeah. But
like this
because you pick up
there's
spider bots for a bunch of shit.
there's nodes to or nods to Daredevil in this game. There's nods to Wolverine in this game. And apparently it's come out that Insomniac's Wolverine is set in the same universe as Spider-Man 2.
Fantastic.
Um so there's all kinds of there's nods to the King in Black to Null if you're up on your Venom comic book stuff. So there's all kinds of stuff in this game that is worth taking your time. If you want to beat the main story quick, that's fine, but don't skip those side quests because they are pretty important to the future of this game. So there's I I honestly think that the next iteration of this game, they're gonna do this probably the same thing they did last time, where like next year we'll get Spider-Man 2 or Miles Morales 2.
I hope though that they put more girth to it. That's my one
Yeah, I hope you
complaint
do
with the
like bit more
Miles.
girth.
That's my one complaint of the Miles Morales game is that it was so heavily marketed, and it seemed like it was the next installment of this video game series, and it is, but it's kind of like an in-betweener, right? Which makes sense. This is called Spider-Man 2, that's not, right?
Mhm.
And this has just as much Miles Morales in it as it does Peter.
Right.
But
Well, that game's called Spider-Man Miles Morales, so
right, but there's only I think I read somewhere that it's only 10 hours of gameplay, which is not long enough, and I think that game costs quite a bit less than this one, if I'm not mistaken. I think
well,
that
yeah,
one's
because
introductory price was $40,
well, right, but that was back when video games were only 60 and not $70.
but still $40 gives you the indication
Yeah,
that it's not a full-fledged game.
right. A lot of people call it an expansion, but you know, either way, it was still good. But
And Peter's not anywhere in that game, so it's very much a
he comes back at the end. He's out of the country.
right.
Him and MJ go out of the country. Um,
So
but
I hope if they do the Miles Morales 2 or whatever, that it's an actual like full-fledged game. Like I want a big, nearly 30-hour gameplay game.
I think if you're gonna get that, you're gonna get Spider-Man 3 at that point. But they leave open so many loose ends in this game that I think there's gonna be content. You're definitely gonna get a Spider-Man 3. There's no this
Oh
was
yeah.
the Sony's highest selling game, you know, right off the rip. There's gonna be a Spider-Man 3. It was fantastic. I loved it. I love this iteration of MJ way better than any other iteration of MJ that we've gotten. I love the
Yeah,
Peter
I
and
could agree
Miles
with that.
dynamic. Um, there's
I
just so
love
much I love
this
about this
iteration
game.
of Harry better than any other Harry we've ever got.
Yeah. There was some bugs. There
Yeah.
was some bugs, like,
Uh,
at one point,
I didn't
I
experience any bugs until the update they released yesterday. Then all I got were bugs.
I've crashed twice. I've gotten to points where, like, I've been stuck and I can't jump up into something, so I have to restart the mission. There was one point where I was fighting, some groups of the flame, and I kicked one and I shot him off into space, like, he took off into space, and, yeah, I've had some weird bugs in the game, but overall, it has not been, like, game breaking. It has not done anything to cripple the gameplay. I've loved the hell out of this game.
I had to restart the mission where you go into Peter's mind because it got stuck. And I even restarted my PlayStation, went back to like I had it I didn't restart the mission. I just restarted my PlayStation. It went back to that checkpoint, and it was the start of the checkpoint, and it was still stuck.
Yeah, I got stuck when you're fighting Mr. Negative as Miles, and he's like up on the and you see Jefferson up on the platform, and like you got to jump up there. Like I got stuck underneath it, so I couldn't get up there. So I had to restart that checkpoint.
But I was a little bummed that. So and I sent you a picture of this. So the ending of the game, Spider-Man, you're all there. You're having dinner at Peter's house, Aunt May's former house. And Peter tells MJ, look, I'm going to start up the Emily May Foundation. It's coming out of the garage. And Peter tells Miles, hey, I'm going to take a break for a little while, but you're good. Like you're enough Spider-Man for New York. When they're showing Miles on screen and this thing his entire body's missing. You can kind of see that.
Yeah, it's
and I thought maybe, is he wearing an invisible suit? Like it took me a minute to realize, oh no, this fucked up.
Yeah.
And then when he's at the end, like he uses his web shooter, he goes on a lamp and takes off. You don't see him at all. You just see webs coming out of nowhere. And I was like, well, that's kind of a bummer. Like I just finished that game. This is supposed to be the big payoff, and then it's all, even the cutscene is filled with glitches.
Yeah.
So that was a bummer. But I did have it where that one with Mr. Negative, it was saying press L1 and square to do this thing. There's but when all the symbiote are running after you and Mr. Negative is up there trying to explode the symbiote heart. Press these two buttons to do this. And I'm sitting here pushing it and nothing's happening. I'm like, what the I called Max and I said, am I doing something wrong? Because I've been playing this whole game and this is how it works. Push this and this together, and then it's supposed to go. And I had to finally restart the whole fucking mission.
So
pissed me
my
off.
issue is like when you're doing a mission, it's like press L1 and X to parry. Well, my L1 and X isn't parry. It was L1 and circle to parry. So like
I thought
that's how I was
was just L1.
No, it's like to parry a heavy attack, it's L1 and X, but it wasn't. So it's L1 and circle for me. It was L1 and circle for me to parry a heavy attack. So I don't know if somehow my controls got switched or what, but
for me to parry, it was just L1. Like you block and then you do a move.
Not me. It was L1 and circle to parry.
Weird.
So,
I don't like that, dude. You've been playing the game the whole time. Don't pause it to show me what I'm supposed to press. Just put it at the bottom of the screen. Let me fight. Like, I didn't need to, like, I don't like that. A lot of games do that where you've gotten through 90% of the story and it's pausing it to tell me to hit L1 and X or L1 and square or something like that to do this freaking electric thing. I was planning on doing that shit anyways. I didn't need the game to tell me. You see 50 guys running after you. I'm going to use one of my special things to fucking extinguish these guys. I don't like that. I don't like the hand holding.
And that was like part of my issue, like why I died so many times with the Venom fight, because it was just getting timing, because Venom has a lot of different combos and change ups. So like he combos in from a heavy attack to a light, and sometimes so you can parry the heavy, but you got to dodge the light. So sometimes like I was caught in the parry and couldn't dodge the light, and I'd get caught by the light, or like I would dodge, or he could go from light to heavy. So I would like he has an ability where he shoots his arms out at you. So I'm like dodging the light, and then I would go to parry, and as I was in the middle of dodging the light, he would hit me with his heavy, and I couldn't parry it. So
what difficulty were you playing in?
I don't know.
So I was doing not the lowest, but the one above it, which they have like friendly neighborhood and then friendly. I was playing friendly. I'm not good at video games, so I need to play on easy mode. And maybe that's why I had a different experience than you. Like maybe the buttons weren't as hard for me because I was in a different mode.
Maybe, I don't know,
because I know I had to move it down. I realized very quickly the out of the box difficulty mode. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking beat this game, so I had to move it down because I was getting my ass kicked. Um, but so if you were playing out of the box, you were probably playing on normal, and maybe it's a little bit more difficult because I never had to repeat a mission. I never like with the boss fights. I never like
Oh,
the
I
Venom
did.
one. I was able to get through it once, but it was hard. But like I was able to get through it, and I think it's because he doesn't deliver as much damage.
Well, yeah, he was delivering a shit ton of damage. So like in the fight where it's the 3 stages at the gym, like, so when he grabs you and pulls you off, that's like 90, it does like 90 damage, and then when he slams you, it does another 70 damage. So, like, it takes like half of your health bar away.
Yeah, I didn't experience the same thing.
Or like, or I'm trying to parry all these symbiotes running at me, and I'm my timings is off, and I'm just getting obliterated. Or like he comes at me with like combo after combo after combo, and I can't parry your chain, and I'm just getting destroyed. It's like, good God, this is annoying.
So I read a rumor that they're possibly going to develop a Venom game.
I've heard that too. They said if the fans want it, they're open to it. But what's the point? I mean, are you going to bring Eddie Brock into it? If I mean, I'd be more interested if like it was Flash Thompson Agent Venom game. I'd be more interested if it was like a King in Black style game.
I
With
want it to
Null,
fit in
but
this universe. They don't. Does the symbiote die at the end?
yes. But there are other symbiotes still running around, as we know later on with the Carnage stuff. So it could attach. I mean, maybe eventually it attaches, or you. I don't know. It's kind of vague because it just kind of disappears. So I guess
Yeah.
they could make it to where it finds Eddie Brock somehow and attaches itself to Eddie Brock, and then we get the whole King in Black with Null and the Venom God, and because I mean they established all that with the hive mind and in the
Right.
and all that. So they kind of set up a lot of things
What
in
I
that comic book storyline. So,
what I don't want to see is basically a Venom game that has no mention of Spider-Man like the movies.
well, I'm
Like,
sure it will. If they're gonna continue to attach it to this universe, it definitely will.
right. But I want to like I don't know. I think if they were going to spin off a Venom game, they should have shown at the end of this game like it attaching itself to. They make several mentions to Flash and one mention to Eddie Brock, I think.
Hmm.
They should have. Doesn't the first game mention Eddie Brock quite a bit?
I can't remember. Like I said, I
Isn't he a
haven't played the
rival
first game.
photographer at the Daily Bugle?
He might be. I know that's the story of Eddie Brock, but I don't. Like I said, I'd have to go back and play Spider-Man 1 again because I don't really remember much
Play
about
the
that game.
remastered if you play.
But
Because if you play the regular version, you're gonna be like, holy shit. And that game looked phenomenal when it came out. It does not anymore. You got to play the remastered.
yeah,
But I would have liked some continuation of Venom going to Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson at the end of this if they were gonna do a side mission with or a side game with Venom.
well, they could do it too, where somehow they still have some of the symbiote left over from all of this, and Flash Thompson comes back from a war where he's injured and paralyzed, like he is in the books, and then they give him the symbiote, and it attaches to him, and he becomes Agent Venom. They could do that still, and it would make a lot of sense to do a Venom game that way. But who knows?
Yeah. You fight Carnage.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil it too much for you guys, but like I said, make sure you're doing the side quests because there's a lot of
Yeah, you
good
mentioned a
stuff in there.
couple I don't think I've gotten through yet. So have you the chameleon thing that you mentioned, is that after you finish all the hunter layers?
It's after you finish all of the like drones that like the drone mission where they're
The ones
searching
you're
for people.
flying behind them?
Yeah,
Is that the ones where you fly behind them, you're downloading information from the drones?
yeah.
Okay, I haven't finished those yet. The only one I finished so far is the fire one and the oh, what was it? It was the fire one and oh, there's another one that I did. Oh, the Sandman storyline.
Oh yeah, all the same in
because I
crystals.
wanted to see how that one finished, which that one has a very nice ending. And that one's not teasing any characters, I don't think. Did you finish that one?
I have not finished that one yet.
The ending is very nice and very heartwarming.
Aw,
Aw.
can't wait.
But the Carnage reveal, I'm like, oh fuck, dude, this is awesome. Very different backstory for they don't tell you it's Cletus until they say, I'm gonna look into his other like he runs off and I'm gonna look into his other aliases. I think there's gonna be a DLC coming out with that because Yuri says, hey, I'm gonna look into his other aliases. It might take a couple months or a year for me to tell you more. So I kept thinking, like, oh, maybe there's more to this in this game. I don't think there is.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it'll be DLC. But
But
I think that's it. I think we covered the game.
what's your rating out of 10?
It's a 10 out of 10 for me, man. 10 out of 10. I could not put this game down. Like,
10 out of 10 is high praise, and I'm trying to think of what else I would give a 10 out of 10. I'm trying to think because that would mean it's the best game I ever played, and I don't know.
I'm not saying it's the best game I've ever. It might be up. I mean, it's up there with like Red Dead Redemption 2, Red Dead 1.
Which is a
like
game I still haven't played.
It's one of my favorite games. I think as far as like a Spider-Man goes, like for what's come out so in the last couple of years, it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
See, I think Last of Us 1 I would give a 10 out of 10. This one might be a 9 out of 10 for me.
But I loved it, man. I want more. Like I could not put it down. I was jonesing to play it every time I had to get off of it.
I think the reason it's not a 10 out of 10 for me is there was one thing that kind of bothered me about the game, and it was the Black Cat storyline. I felt like it was just pigeoned in there.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, it's just because she was being hunted by Kraven also.
Right. But there's no payoff later. You help her escape Kraven or capture this wand thing from.
Well, yeah, there is because she helps you later on.
With what?
There's what is it? You're trying to locate Kraven or something like that, and she helps you later on how to find him.
She does?
Yeah, she calls you when you're in the middle, like on your like spider communicator when you're in the middle of a mission and tells you where to go. And
so it didn't
help you later on.
It didn't need to be her.
No, because there's like Mary Jane's on the call too, and it's Mary Jane and Miles are talking, and like Black Cat interrupts, and yeah, so she does help you out. There's a payoff later on.
I wish
it's nothing like grandiose though.
Yeah, it seems almost like side mission, but they put it in the main storyline, I guess. Like that whole thing where you're going to get the wand to help her friend that's like in Paris, that's stranded in Paris, which it's Felicia Hardy. Why can't she just get on a plane and fly to Paris?
Well, yeah, but
why she need this wand? It seems like a lot of effort for.
Let's talk about how much heart this game had. There was a scene that almost brought a tear to my eye when you're helping the woman find her grandfather in the park.
I haven't done that yet.
You haven't done that yet? Oh my god. See, you got so much.
There's one where you're helping a blind woman. Did you do that one?
Yeah, but this one you're helping a woman who lost her grandfather who's got dementia in Central Park. And when you find him, he talks about like his life and how he knows he's getting ready to die and how he's coming to terms with death and like just his reflection on things. It's so like gut punching.
I really liked. I've only done one of those. They're the ones on the map that have like the blue spider symbol.
Mm-hmm.
I've only done one so far, and it was the one where you're helping this woman. She hears like some monster because I was trying to clear out a whole. I've been going city by city. Now that I'm done with the storyline, I'm trying to clear out city by city, and I just cleared out Astoria, which is Queens, I think, right? Or something like that. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But you're helping this woman. She thinks she's blind. She thinks she hears a monster. She can't have animals because she has like allergies and shit. And then you find out it's like one of the mechanical dogs that you fight periodically throughout the game. And Genki like hacks it and like downloads it with 10,000 videos of friendly dogs. And now this blind lady can have a service animal when she couldn't before. And it's this big
Nice.
demon metal dog.
Nice.
But or the one, I think it's part of the main storyline. I don't think it's a side quest where you're the deaf girl that Miles is interested in. What's her name? Heidi?
I can't remember.
And you're painting.
Haven't done that one yet.
Is that a side mission?
I don't know. I haven't done that one yet.
I think it's a side mission. You're going and you're cleaning up graffiti.
Yeah, I have the mission. I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, and that one has a nice little payoff at the end. That's nice and sweet.
Well, I want to end this conversation here because I don't want you ruining anything else for me that I haven't done yet. So,
dude, I am so sorry. So I texted Matt and Max and I said, "Holy crap, that game's incredible." They got like a day or two ahead of me. And I had to warn them earlier, like, no spoilers. I don't have the game yet because I pre-ordered it from Best Buy. We talked about this on the last podcast, how pissed I was. I pre-ordered something. It's not here the day that it's released. But this whole time I'm thinking you guys beat it. And then Matt suddenly says, "No spoilers, asshole." And apparently he decided to take his time with it and not tell anybody.
I did take my time.
But my last 3 conversations with you about this game was like, "Hey, man, I don't want to talk too long. I want to get back to Spider-Man." So I'm thinking that you fucking beat the game.
No, someone like me who's a diehard Spider-Man fan, I'm going to take my time. And I tried to do as much as I could. But finally, when you were like, "Oh, well, I want to talk Spider-Man tonight, so you need to beat it," I was like, "All right." So then I just powered through the story instead of doing side missions and stuff. So like I would be swinging through and then something would happen where I would get an alert and I'd stop and go break it up and I would do all that stuff. So I finally just powered through it so I could talk about it.
I thought I would stop as you're swinging to a checkpoint or whatever, or swing into a nav point, I guess you call it. I would stop and like stop a crime that was happening. That was like the extent of what I did. Or like, but I did those essentially just to get the city tokens and all that stuff so I could improve my abilities or whatever. Because like I said, I was getting my ass kicked in certain things. Like I'd go do a hunter blind and it was way too hard. So then I tried to get more specials and all that other shit. But I typically don't play the side quests until after I beat the storyline, just because I want to see what the story is. This game, though, I would definitely recommend doing the side quests while you're playing the game.
Yes.
Because a lot of them fall. Max told us this in the chat. A lot of them follow the storyline of the game. So like the Wraith Yuri thing, you play it after and he gets Carnage and all this stuff. And you're like, oh, this would have been nice to play, like find out before I get into the end battle with Venom and everything, knowing that it probably would have meant more, you know. But now I'm going to 100 blinds. Craven's dead. What are all these people still fighting for?
Right. That's what I say. Like you're fighting through the city, and all of a sudden you're getting attacked by Sammy. It's like Venom's dead. You're supposed to be gone. Why are you still here?
We destroyed the meteor. Yeah. Why are these people still here? But even some of the Sandman quests, I did after I beat the storyline, and you're beating the Sandman people, and symbiotes are in there as well. And I already beat the storyline. So it's whatever.
All right. Well, I think that's what we'll end it this week. Let us know in the comment section below. Have you played this game? Did you like this game? What did you like, dislike about it? And give us your rating. And yeah, so
if you haven't played this game, I sure hope to hell you haven't listened to this whole podcast.
Right. I appreciate each and every one of you who are listening. And that'll do it for this week in this special edition of Just Video Game Talk, the Absolute Geek Podcast. And we'll see you guys next time.
all you freaks and geeks.
Come all you freaks and geeks. Let's listen to Absolute Geek.
Absolute Geek.
We'll go ahead and spread our cheeks.
Spread the cheese.
And drink
And
some
we're for
Cosby wine.
We'll
Come
drink
on,
some
Absolute
Cosby wine. It makes me feel real fine. See you next time on the Absolute Geek.